Uh, Seeing that we've got a quorum, I am going to call the meeting to order. This is December 20th and the last meeting of the Elementary School Building Committee of 2024, but not the last in our lifetime. And what I'm going to do for starters, as always, is make sure everyone on the committee can hear and we can hear them. So I'll call out names as I see people on the screen. Melissa?
Here.
Rupert?
I am actually here.
Paul?
Here.
Simone?
Here.
Deb Leonard? I didn't hear you, Deb. Can you hear us? Okay. Tammy?
Here.
With a Christmas scarf on. Bruce?
I too am actually here.
Paul?
Present.
And Melissa?
Here.
Okay,
Again.
Tammy showed us she could be more than just a scarf. She can be
Kathy, you
all the
forgot
way
me.
there.
Jonathan, you forgot
Oh,
me.
Jonathan, I missed Jonathan. Jonathan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jonathan. Sorry, thank you. Did I miss anyone else? No. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We have what I think will be a fairly short agenda in terms of time today, and I'll turn it over to Margaret just for the order. I think, Margaret, the first was going to be announcements and then the update on bidding, or which way are we doing it?
If you can just let me share the screen, I'll pull up the agenda briefly. But yes, we're going to do committee announcements next.
So the big committee announcement for those who got on a little early is that we're losing a treasured member of our committee, Rupert. And here's the screen sharing coming up. So on committee announcements, last week we were joined by Superintendent Z, who, as far as I know, is joining us today, but I'm not positive. So we'll do a construction bid update and then importantly, look at future committee meeting dates and time. And we do have invoices. So that is the short and simple agenda. So Rupert is retiring. You can speak for yourself, Rupert, but I just want to say what a pleasure it is and how much of a contribution you've made to be on our committee. The whole town, as well as the committee, owes you a big thanks.
Well, it's been my pleasure and an honor. This is an ambitious and fascinating project. And I think we've been really lucky, not only with the committee members' skills and willingness to contribute, but also all the professional staff, Answer and Danisco in particular, have been exceptional in the amount of attention they pay to detail and their willingness to listen and their creative solutions to problems. So it's been a great project. I'm looking forward to retirement, and it's time for me, but hopefully you all will find your own time for retirement after the building's built.
So I think you'll be able to be with us for January. Is that correct?
Probably. It depends on
if we
when
twist your arm.
Yeah, probably so, yes.
Yeah, so as I saw, Paul was clapping. I think we're all clapping for you. It really has been fantastic. I mean, he was there at small issues of where if two windows came together in a corner, was that a problem? I mean, it as well as traffic and other pieces of this project. So it's been fantastic. The other announcement was Dr. G joining us, but she's not here today, and we did introduce her last week, last time we met in November. So now for the main item, or the big item on our agenda, is bidding, where we are with, after the AG decision, that the challenges didn't hold water. We're a green light to go ahead with contracting, and Bob and Paul and company have been working on getting that over the next threshold. So maybe we could, Paul, I don't know
Sure,
which person
sure.
is going to speak on to
Yeah.
that.
So I'll start and Bob can jump in. So yeah, so the good news is all of the bid protests were denied by the Attorney General. The bad news is that they took about 2.5 months to get to their decision, and that has put us behind schedule. So we're excuse me, working with the low bid contractor that we awarded the bid to get them to sign the contract. There's a lot of discussion going back and forth that Bob has really been quarterbacking. We're confident that we will move forward. Confident and hopeful that we will move forward, and really are driving to get it done before the end of the calendar year. Would you say, what else would you like to add, Bob?
I guess, there have been questions in the past regarding schedule and schedule
Yeah.
impacts, and we obviously can't speak definitively about that yet, but I can share that much of the discussions that have been going on with CTA is what would it take to retain the existing schedule, keep the project together as planned because of the major operational impact that schedule or changes in the schedule would have on the school district. But also, as you delve into the phasing of the project and the various pieces, there are some pieces of the project that can happen now with the existing school in operation. There are some pieces that have to happen when there's nobody on the building site. And there are some pieces that have to happen after the students have moved to the new building. And making all that work and making all that fit and doing that in accordance with the original schedule plan is pretty critical. So we're trying to work through that with the contractor right now, and our hope is that we can retain that schedule and have some information in the very near future.
Bob and Paul, I should ask if there are any questions, but my question would be, I'm assuming that this is interactive with the Danisco team as well on, or in terms of the timing and the schedule, correct?
Absolutely. I've had numerous discussions with the team as a whole and then individually as the opportunities arose. So yeah, we spoke yesterday, for instance, as an example.
So are there any other questions, Deb, or comments? Yeah.
I'm late to the whole process because I just joined in January, but it is part of the timeline for phasing the actual physical time it takes to move the interior parts, the classroom structure to that's all built into the schedule.
Yes,
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
a
so
lot of moving pieces to put together.
Yeah.
So that's
So
part
Deb,
of the
I could
complexity.
quickly, I can probably find a piece of this, but the original intent was to have the building be built by June.
Yeah.
So that over the summer, what you're talking, the classrooms with furniture and everything would be all set up for an opening.
Yeah.
So the building was done well in advance of the opening. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what you were asking, right?
Yes, yeah.
Bruce?
Bob, I think I recall, or I assume perhaps that the bid was good for what, something like 30 days or something of that sort. In other words, probably not 90 days. So I guess the question arising from that might be, should we be prepared for some kind of cost or negotiating in the base bid that would account for the fact that we didn't pick it up within the bid period, or does that not apply because it would force a rebid or something? I just kind of want to understand whether there are any complications from that point of view, and B, whether we should be prepared for some additional price in the final contract to what was actually the initial bid.
So
Maybe you could rephrase the question so it makes sense.
I'll try and answer it and Bob, you can jump in. So
Sure.
the bid is the bid. And that's, we could rebid, we don't want to rebid. There are complications, both on timing and on costs. And that's the substance of the negotiation with Bob and our town attorney primarily that they're going through with the low bid contractor.
And the
Bob?
contract does provide provision, or does include provisions for claims to be filed to work through issues if and when they develop once the contract is executed. So there is the potential, and there without a doubt there will be discussions not only relative to schedule but to other items that come up during the course of construction that get resolved through the claims process on this project. That's just it's part of the process.
And if, well, I'm going to jump in. I just remember Ksenia answered Bruce's question on a delay way back in the summer when it was only 1 month, that one of the issues would be if there was going to be more overtime, you know, because the project had been delayed. And I imagine that's partly, if we're keeping to the schedule, that's some of the discussion, you know, on how you all are negotiating. Needless to say, we're all waiting for the back to the world of the green light.
Mhm.
that is the ink is dry on the agreement. And
Right.
they're still eager to build this building, yes?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And they, as much as we want to stick to the original schedule, because the project is really designed based on that schedule. And to do anything different creates problems on all different levels.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just want to say, Kathy, to sort of loop on what you mentioned, there are costs, yes, of accelerating schedule for overtime if you're sticking to the existing schedule, but there are also costs to moving the end date because then there's you pick up more inflationary time. So it's complex. There are multiple considerations, and those are all being factored in. So it's just too many tangents to chase in this setting.
So I'm not seeing any other hands up at this point. You know, if this moves, and Paul said hopefully before the end of the year, everyone will get an email about it.
Mhm.
You won't have to wait to read about it in the
Yep.
Gazette.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Deb?
So if there are additional costs, how is that handled within the cost analysis of the whole project?
So
Go ahead, Paul.
so there are always cost adjustments during the course of the project, you know, things, unknowns come up or situations change. So that's considered, you know, changes to the contract during the course of the after the bid has been awarded, and then there's a contract signed. There's a process for addressing those.
But it doesn't mean we have to have it rebid, right?
Not at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions or comments? I don't see any. So then Margaret has proposed dates for meetings in 2025. And for those of you who remember in November, Alicia said that the meeting time of Friday morning was not going to work for her starting in February. And I checked with her. Friday afternoon would work, and Allison, who's not with us today, so Tammy, I don't know whether this works for you. Allison said that actually the afternoon works a bit better for her because the children leave at 12:30. So I wanted to see whether a 12:30 meeting time for next year would work for people. And I double checked or I had
leave at
and-
12:30 every Friday.
No, it would be, so 12:30 would be, we're only going to be meeting once a month, Tammy. So it would be, and in general, you could correct me, Margaret and Danisco, but in general, they're going to be fairly short meetings because it's going to be updates on what's going on without major decisions, I think. So I'm looking around the room, or the Zoom room, And I'm not asking for if anyone has a problem with that time, I thought it might be easier than finding a whole new day and a new time. So these will probably be an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but usually an hour or less meeting.
So you're saying every X Fridays at 12:30, Kathy?
Yeah, and then Margaret has what does that mean for, I think you went through all the dates, so Margaret or Ksenia can put it up on the screen, but it was looking at school vacations, at holidays, at a variety of things. What does that mean for which Fridays?
So, and I just want to acknowledge that it's Ksenia and Connor and Melissa who have
Okay.
really worked to develop the schedule, because the thing that is driving it the most, and Ksenia is going to pull up the dates, is the warrant process for payment. So we're kind of, they have worked hard to optimize these dates around when we need to get invoices approved to get them paid seamlessly as we move into the construction process. So I'm going to hand this over to Ksenia to talk about, because she and Connor and Melissa did all the work on this.
Just a second, struggling to get these dates maximized on my screen, but maximum or not, are you able to see them?
Yep.
Here,
Yes.
a bunch of Fridays. So we will send out an email to everyone here for these dates. We're not asking for everyone to come away in the next 5 seconds with a proper check of their calendars and a confirmation of these dates. So what we'll do is we'll send out meeting holds to everyone's calendars, and then please get back to us. So you'll probably see the email from Connor. Please get back to us, and we will sort of consolidate the input. And if there's any tweaks and adjustments needed, we will see what can be done. The complication, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you all. The complication around scheduling these is that we need to consider a few different things around the invoice payment schedules. One of them is that the general contractor will need to be paid within a certain number of days from the first date of the month. Second one is the first date of the month is sometimes nothing to do with a Monday or a Friday, right? Like they slide throughout the week. Third is that there's a certain amount of review and packaging time needed for the team and for the town's departments. And all of these things kind of coalescing together create a unique picture for every month in the calendar. It's actually surprisingly complex to line up to Fridays, something that wants to line up to calendar days instead of days of a week. So we think we've got it figured and it works for everything. If there is, we try to work around holidays and things like that are kind of generally impactful, but do please let us know if it doesn't work and there's additional tweaks that may be possible. Thank you.
And in addition to the holds, since people didn't get a chance to quickly look at that, Ksenia will give me that. We'll email those dates to you as a list as well. Now that, since we didn't have a time, so that it'll be, I guess in January, we might as well start at the new time. It would be starting at 12:30.
So January 17th is the first date and February 14th. Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but we all really like each other that much, so.
That's right.
Um,
Okay, that's great. And Alicia, who couldn't make it, I think is going to be very grateful that this worked out for her. So I think we have
Kathy, can I
invoices. Yes,
just
sure.
add one thing while we're at this moment of we're about to send out emails? I think Kathy may have mentioned in her update earlier this week that the company that Ksenia and Connor and I work for, we were Answer Advisory when we started the project, and we were subsequently became part of Accenture, and we've been riding along as Accenture Advisory within this larger group. But as of this week, we're or all the branding, and the emails are switching over. So Kathy had the experience this morning, for instance, of getting an email from me from Accenture, and showed up as a new person. So just to let you know, it's not it's still us. It's just at Accenture.com. Okay.
And my email said you don't often hear from this person. And I thought that's definitely not true. Oh, Paul.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful, Margaret, if you and Ksenia sent out something to us all so we can add you to our trusted list and things like that. Just say,
We can
this is
do
our
that.
new email address. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Great. So I think we have invoices. Is that correct?
Yes, we
We
do.
do.
Connor, you want to take it or you want me to?
I will. Yep, I got it up right now. All right, can you guys see my screen?
It
Amazing.
says started to screen. Now we have.
Okay, perfect. So as always, we have our roadmap of the project, where we've been, where we're going. So it's inching forward at the moment. Not much new. We have our tiny black sliver, which may or may not be visible on your screens, which is our current invoice package. And then just a quick summary, even though we've looked at this before, the green, as always, is what has been previously invoiced. And the yellow is what is unbilled portions of currently committed contracts. And then our white brick road here is our roadmap ahead, currently uncommitted, and also contingency is held here. So the current invoice package is $70,328, and that is 0% of the total project budget, rounding. And we've invoiced 9% of the total project budget so far. So we do not have an updated cash flow for you guys at this time, and that continues to be because we don't know the impact on the project schedule of the bid protest at this time. So moving on to the invoice package. And I can zoom in at any point if anything needs to be bigger. But we have 5 invoices this month, one from Answer for $13,982.50. And that is 1% of Answer's total contract. And that brings us up to 32% billing on our contract with 68% remaining. And a lot of that is for construction oversight. We have 3 invoices from Danisco. They are all from Danisco's consultants. Danisco themselves don't have a invoice for this month. And this is 1% of their contract, bringing them up to 71% overall, as most of their work was done during design, but they still have a little bit left for construction administration. And most of the money Danisco is billing for this month comes from their consultant OTO, who is billing for leftover work that they did during the early site package for Geotech. And then we have one more invoice from BidDocs for $1,357.45. And this was for printing sets for contractors who requested that during the bid phase. So unless there's any questions, I'll move on and we'll scroll through the invoices so you guys can take a look. First up, the Answer invoice. In the backup here. And as always, you can always tell me to stop. Sorry. The first Danisco invoice. For the geotechnical services from OTO. Second Danisco invoice for lead registration certification. another Danisco invoice. This one was for the power study. And finally, the bid docs invoice. So, as always, we approve these invoices and recommend them for your approval as well. And unless there's any questions, I will pull down my screen.
Thank you. Thank you, Connor. So if there are any questions, I don't see any. I move to approve the invoices as presented.
I'll second.
And could we just get Melissa to weigh in that she has reviewed these
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I did review them with Ksenia earlier this week.
Thank
And
you.
you recommend them?
Yep.
Good.
So then I will call for a vote. Kathy is an aye. Rupert,
Rupert, aye.
Simone,
Yes.
Bruce,
I approve.
Paul,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and Melissa.
Yes.
And I want to, we've said this before, I want to thank you for both the oversight of these and the clear presentation, seeing that tracking. You know, seeing the geotech, I guess, well, I'm leaving it since I don't know anything about building a building to all of you who do, but with things like the ground source wells, I have been wondering whether the winter months put any kind of hampering on that. And watching what UMass and Amherst is doing, it seems like maybe not, because they seem to be drilling at all times of year, but other than scheduling. So if people have questions like that one, they can send them through me just as they start to think of what does this mean? Because we still don't have a complete start date yet. There any,
Kathy, I'll just say that once all the moving parts stop moving and we have one detailed, elaborate story to tell about what this means to the project, we will do that and satisfy all of the various paths. So just right now, every tangent has a tangent, and it is not yet worth pursuing here.
thank you. So I'm not seeing any other hands up. So now it's time for public comments. And we do have, we have two hands up, Chris Kofer, and his hand is up twice. So I will allow Chris, and then we have a bunch of phone numbers. Chris.
Hi. Oh, good, you can hear me. So I was concerned because I've never been on a meeting in this way that I wouldn't be heard, so I wanted to come on a couple times. Let me just fix my noise.
Could
Are
you,
able to see me or
Kathy,
Chris,
not?
could you
address
just
them.
introduce yourself on who
Are
you
you
are?
able to see me or no?
No.
Okay, my name is Chris Kiefner.
We lost him.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I don't think I did.
I think he was on through two different channels and he was trying to turn one of them off because he was getting reverb. And I think he'll come back, I expect.
Okay, so let me let the second hand in. So Tom Warger. Tom, I think you've joined us.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I had received an invitation to the meeting back on Tuesday. I am chair of the Public Art Commission. So I've been out here in the waiting room. I've heard the meeting. And I just wanted to check in with you to let you know that I don't have any questions or comments at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
How about this time?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I apologize for the first entry. My name is Chris Kiefner. I live in Storrs, Connecticut, and here in Mansfield, we just completed a net zero school. I'm very connected to Amherst in that my daughter and family, husband and twins have moved there and now are at Crocker Farms School. And I have also been I've been the vice chair of the building committee of our net zero school. So I truly appreciate the work you're doing for, my next generation on. And just had a couple of comments. One word to the wise, which seems simple, but it's something I think very important to look into. One of our surprisingly great frustrations has been we cannot turn off or on the lights in some areas. So as silly as that sounds, the engineers have a way of thinking that the computer knows best. And in some cases, it certainly may, but when you can't turn the lights on the weekend and you can't turn them off at 10 o'clock or whatever, when it's dark or whatever, I would encourage you to very thoroughly go through the plans. It's been an embarrassment for us that people go by the building at night and see the lights on. It was more of a problem when we were getting the I forget what it's called, everything checked out and everything programmed. But it's ridiculous that we cannot turn the lights off on a sunny day in rooms, the Great Hall, for example, which is our cafeteria area, on a sunny day, even though we don't need them on. And then there are plenty of other lights where it couldn't be done, and so forth. So I just want you to please pay careful attention to that. It's crazy frustrating. The lights in the light controls in the classrooms were far more elaborate than is called for, or than are actually used, and they were sort of dumbed down, I'll call it. Again, this is all from my point of view, not as an engineer, but as a member of the committee. So I just would encourage you to look at those things carefully and frankly add some switches, even if they're not immediately available. In our case, they're not available at all except through the programming. So that was number one. Number two was just, I've watched a couple of recordings of your meetings, and I was just here for this meeting. And I got to say, Connor's presentation of the graph is terrific. That makes it very, very clear. The one thing I would suggest, if I might, is to put a line where the contingency begins at the end of it, toward the right side of that bar, and have it fill up, because your contingency, you're always going to be wondering how much is left in contingency and always asking, and that thing will show it each time. But the way in which you've done the invoice summaries are just excellent. Ours are good, but yours are excellent. So anyhow, that's all. I wish you well. I wish I had been known more about this earlier on, because it really is a very, very exciting thing to be doing. And we had the same problems you did, where we had people contesting the bid and it was delayed and so forth and so on. You, I hope, will not have the bigger problem that we had, which was we were building during COVID. And that caused delays that we were not able to get out from underneath because of supply chain issues. In any case, thank you all very much for what you're doing, and my very best wishes to all of you.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be able to do it. And I apologize for that coming on. I've never been into a meeting in this way. So not seeing yourself in the meeting and not knowing whether you're being heard, it did try to get on a few different ways. Not sure whether I was on at all or not. So my apologies.
I'm looking, and there is another hand up, a phone number. I have, you can if you unmute, phone number 413-218-6922. If you unmute, we'll be able to hear you, but you're muted.
Is there a key stroke for that? *9 or something?
Okay.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
Okay, hi, this is Maria Kopicki. By the way, I mean, I'm kind of okay with it, but probably just give the last 4 digits of a phone number for privacy's sake. So I'm wondering with the, I know that there is contract stuff and other things going on, but is the net zero subcommittee going to get working again? Because there were a lot of things that that are still outstanding, a lot of operational stuff. It's nice to hear from the previous speaker, the gentleman from Connecticut, that had done a net zero building. But I think that there are a lot of issues that probably need to get readdressed, and I'm hoping that that can be on the next agenda in January, particularly since, you know, the meetings are going to be just monthly. There's a lot of things to address. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I think that is it for so I think we're at the
Bruce
end
has a hand
of
up.
Bruce's hand is up. Bruce.
Yes, I know we don't typically respond to public comment, but I don't
Yeah,
think
and
you're
we
all
don't,
against
Bruce.
it.
We just don't.
You
Yeah.
just don't?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious because I think the gentleman's concern about the lighting controls and so forth, from my understanding of what is in the specification and so forth, that we are not likely to suffer such embarrassment. So I guess I'll simply ask the question, should we have concerns based on the gentleman from Connecticut's questions, or do we think that our system design is such that we won't be vulnerable to that concern? I mean, I'd like to deal with that now rather than just forget about it, frankly.
Well, since Bruce has now asked the question, I'll turn to the NISCO team, but I do think it's something we should, if it's an issue at all, we should just have a discussion, because we just don't, Bruce, it just opens up a can of worms to try to deal with it during the meeting.
Point of order.
Yes.
Can you just put that on the next agenda, please?
Yeah, we'll put it on, and it won't be forgotten. We will not forget it. And answers to various questions. One of the things Margaret has done on minutes, if anyone reads our minutes, is at the very bottom, questions that were asked, to the extent there are answers, she's also included the answers. So we'll continue to do that. Tammy emailed me that she had to leave. So I want to see if there are any other issues we should address before we end the last meeting of 2024. I don't see any hands up, so I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kathy is a yes. Simone?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yep.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Rupert?
Adjournment ho!
Melissa?
Yes.
So happy holidays, everyone, and happy new year. And I think when we meet next, we will be talking about beginning, which will be great. Happy holidays. We're adjourned.